Hi, it's Jessi. Welcome to my reading diary for Oathbringer. I almost said words right names. Oathbringer Part 4. If you haven't been following the whole series, well, link up there and you should be. Because this is Part 4 of the third book in the book. But I'm a first-time reader, so this is my first time reading the Stormlight Archive, and I'm just kind of sharing my thoughts and theories as I go along. This one's going to be a little different than previous vlogs because if you've been following the series, I read all of Part 3 and the end of Part 2, most of whichever, driving to and from JordanCon. So on the way there, I could take notes as I was going, but on the way back, I was the one driving, so I didn't get to take notes. So I don't have this broken up, and I can check my phone. I might have some notes on some of the chapters, specific chapters. But I am currently this far into Part 4. I am just finished with chapter 110. So I'm not going to update you on anything yet. We're not getting into the spoilers yet. But I just want to let you know that's how this vlog is going to go, because I might re-listen to some parts of it or skim through before I kind of get back to it, because it's been like a week since I read it, and so I want to refresh myself. But I'm not going to be making predictions until we get to the new stuff, because I might subconsciously be remembering something. So that's where we're at. I hope you'll stick around, watch the rest of this, and enjoy. Okay, Words of Radiance Part 4. Let's actually start talking about it now. So like I said before, I've read through chapter 109. Okay, I think I read chapter 110, but what I did was I went back and I reread summaries of the chapters, only through chapter 109, so I don't actually remember what happens in chapter 110, but for safety's sake, I'll say this is through 110 in case something I subconsciously remember comes from there. And what I did is I kind of split this up by characters. So we're going to talk about each character's arc this far, and then for the rest of Part 4, which is probably not much. No, not much at all. We'll do it like I've done with my traditional ones, and then Part 5 will be back to normal, which I think I'll just do its own video. Anyway, so first of our characters up is Dalinar. So I was going to split up past Dalinar and current Dalinar. So as it turns out, I didn't have a lot to say about past Dalinar, so I just have here, somehow Dalinar's backstory just makes me love Adolin and Renarin more. So that's what I have to say about past Dalinar. Current Dalinar, also Navani. So Navani, quickly, I think she is showing herself to be just so incredibly clever, and I'm really glad for that, because up until now she's just kind of been this temptress and seductress that ends up being Dalinar's advisor, but you could tell she was intelligent, obviously, but she hasn't really had her much character development until now. And so it's really good to see her, I'm gonna close that door. Anyway, with Navani, it's just really good to see her kind of come into her own a little bit, or not come into her own, but show a little bit of her own ingenuity. And that scene where she walks into the room of all of these different nations and brings them together without them even necessarily realizing it, by just redirecting the conversation from how can we work together to we're working together now, this is what everybody's gonna do, and that. It was just really, really beautiful, and I really enjoyed it. And then doing similar things with the different princes. I just think she really showed a lot of political acumen, but understanding of people, and just she's brilliant. Dalinar himself, still about Navani. I'm starting to see more of why she's a fan favorite outside of just horniness. Anyway, so Dalinar, based on the descriptions we're getting of the thrill, I think it's pretty indisputable that it's one of those unmade Spren or whatever doing it. I think it's really interesting to have that be the main uniting force through all of the storylines. Here is the unmade. So you have the one that was in the tower, and then again showing up at the palace along with the other two, and then you have this one that's clearly causing that, and then I think somewhere there was a discussion about in one of the epigraphs there was about the death rattles, I think is what they call them, are caused by another. So I think that's interesting that that's kind of the through line they've created for this. I don't know if I like it or not. And I think part of why I don't know if I like it is because they weren't introduced before. So I kind of wish there had been hints in the lore of the world before Oathbringer about these Spren, and then the fact that now they're cropping up and they're going to be clearly a problem because of Kaladin's vision thing. They seem to be something that's an antagonist here. I just wish... I'm not sure how I feel about that or not. What I do like about Dalinar is that, like, his struggle with his past. I do like that it's not something he just rolled with. Like, oh, well, that's who I was, but I'm not that anymore. Like, he actually has to process it and struggle with it. It's a fight he has to have, and honestly, he loses for a long while. I wish that it felt like him coming out of that had more to do with himself and not whatever this weird dream vision he had. Like, I wish there had been more of the fight, and maybe we'll see more of it, but like where I'm at, it seems like he kind of turned around and he's fine now. But him relapsing and continuing to struggle with it throughout the next book would be something I would look forward to seeing. Speaking of that dream, the one where he Noadon, I think is the guy, where he like talked with him and went shopping with him. I don't know what that is, because it wasn't during a storm, so like the implication is it wasn't a vision, but then what was it? My one theory was that maybe it was the Radiant that works with Taravangian, but I think we get confirmation that that isn't, insofar as it could still be her, because maybe she's messing with Taravangian by not telling him, but then why would she do it if it wasn't on Taravangian? So that was my theory, but I think it's pretty debunk. Maybe it was just a dream, maybe it had something to do with the maid, maybe it had something to do with the Storm Father who was trying to get him back on his feet. I don't know. I hope that's something that gets resolved and not just left hanging. But if they do leave it hanging, I don't know that I would hate it. But that's what I have on Dalinar and Navani. Not a lot. I still don't like Dalinar. I think he's a more interesting and a more well-written character than I did before, but I still don't like him. That's fine, though. I don't have to like him. He's fine. Alright. Alright, and the next one, I kind of just altered the angle a little bit there. Let's see, who do we want to do next? Do I want to pair up anybody else? Okay, we'll do Adolin. Adolin has a big chunk. Let me just quickly touch on Szeth, and then we'll go back to Adolin, because Adolin's been a big part of this. Szeth, real quick, it's just, I'm not really a big super into his story so far in this section. I mean, I've been a huge fan of him in the past. I've really enjoyed his perspective. He's been really heartbreaking, and I'm glad that he's free of that he's independent, but I just haven't been engaged with his story in this part as much. I mean, there's some interesting things there, and like how he's finding loopholes and things, but like that idea of like black and white morality that like you have, and not only having strict black and white morality, but also the idea that the law is the ultimate decider of morality. It's just not something that interests me. It's so rarely done well, and so rarely like really leads to any conflict. Galad from Wheel of Time dealt with it and kind of had an interesting story with it, but it's something characters can struggle with, whereas Szeth seems to be doing the opposite, where he kind of isn't. I don't really know if I'm articulating it well. And the thing is, like, a character like Justice and what it seems like Szeth is being set up to become, which is a character that has this black and white morality, but has a goal in mind or has what they are trying to accomplish and will twist the laws and the rules to accomplish those things while staying within the rules, seems maybe a little bit interesting. But honestly, it just kind of stresses me out because it's just a little too real. Just a little bit. Okay, going on then from there to Adolin. Okay, yeah, I'm just going to kind of read more or less word for word what I have here, and I'll editorialize as I do. So I'm really, really interested to see how his relationship with his blade develops, because now he's met this Bren who isn't actually dead, just really brutalized and tortured. And so I really want to see how that develops. I'm hoping, I don't know, I'm hoping for something out of this. Like, maybe they bond, maybe they, and I'm 50-50 on this, and I'll get to the second part of this and why it kind of puts me on the other end. But let's go down this pathway for a little bit, which is that, like, maybe he somehow heals her and the blade is whole again, and maybe that makes him radiant because they're bonded, or not. Maybe it just makes her a friend, like his blade isn't tortured anymore, so it's willingly serving him. Maybe it becomes something closer to like what Szeth had in an honor blade. I don't know. But the other end of this is I kind of don't want to see Adolin become radiant. I don't want him to become special or powerful or magical. Like, I want him to stay that, because his arc, this book, and very heavily focused on in this part, has been about the fact that he's not magical, he's not special, he's not radiant, he's just a guy. Now, granted, he's a guy of an upper class and a guy with access to powerful weapons and armor and things, but like, when compared to people that can heal and fly and create illusions and, you know, whatever, he's feeling very powerless, you know, and he's really struggling to that. And I really love a character like that has to struggle with and eventually come to terms with what their role in a group can be when they don't have those kind of magical, excessive, amazing abilities. And usually they end up being like some sort of binding agent. A good example of this would be Sokka from Avatar: The Last Airbender. Hawkeye from Avengers does that sometimes in the comics, not all the time, but a lot of times Hawkeye does that in the comics. And I kind of want Sanderson to not undermine that by having Adolin go through this really difficult thing where he accepts his role and then having him get magical abilities, kind of, what was the name of the one Bridge 4 guy? Felt like he went through that, where he like just accepted, you know what, fine, I won't be a windrunner, I can still help everybody out, and then he got it. Which is fine for on the small scale, but I really hope that's not what Adolin goes down, even though I really do want him and this friend to like work out in some way. I hope he doesn't become radiant, because then all of that character work is undermined, you know? So, after anyway, all of that deep stuff, Adolin's fashion journey might honestly kill me. Alright, so like, here's the thing. I have been watching a lot of these videos. Bear with me. And I'll try to link one up above. But I've been watching these like TV movie reaction videos where deep dives, not deep dives because they don't go into like the history and everything, but just, I can't remember their name right now, but I will have the video linked for sure. And they watch a lot of, you know, like old Disney movies and stuff. And the one thing he pointed out in that Disney sequels, very often when there's like a side or a background character they want to promote to like secondary character status, they'll give them this like character trait of being obsessed with fashion. And it's this kind of a little bit out of nowhere, like maybe before in the first movie they kind of liked fashion, but in the second movie that's their entire personality. And it kind of feels like what's happening with Adolin here. Like, yeah, we knew he was into fashion, but now he's like obsessed. And don't get me wrong, he's got other things going on, you know, not being magical, and whoops, I think I might be king now, which is, you know, a lot to deal with, but like that element of just like the fashion thing is just really, really funny to me. And then the last part there towards the end was just he confessed to Shallan that he killed Sadeas. And I guess that's good. Like, I don't know, that plotline felt like it was like important in the first part of this book and then kind of got forgotten about for like 2/3 of the book. So I don't really feel that impact. Like we saw him really struggling with it early on, and then it kind of disappeared. So I kind of lost the thread there, but like I'm glad that he finally told someone, but like it really didn't have the impact that it would have had if we'd gotten a little more of that struggle going on. But like even in this part, in the last, 100 pages, he hasn't thought about it at all until he suddenly told Shallan when Shallan was opening up to him, and we'll talk about that. But it just kind of felt a little like, oh, well, check that box, I guess, Okay, next up we'll talk about Shallan and Kaladin. I want one person to comment about how I subtly changed something for every one of these clips. I don't want to hear it. Anyway, last little bit. Let's talk Shallan, Kaladin, and well, Syl, I guess. So let's start with Shallan. Did I just zoom out? I didn't want to do that. I actually don't have a lot to say about Shallan here. I mean, she's still struggling, but she's been struggling this whole time. So like, nothing's new. I really think this fractured self thing though needs to come to a head soon, because I don't know how much longer she can keep up this whole, well, Veil getting out of hand and getting out of her control and slipping through. I don't know how much longer she can go on like that. So I think, honestly, she's gonna keep struggling with it, and I imagine it'll kind of culminate in her speaking another truth to, do another vow, move on, and maybe that'll help bring them together. But I don't know. I don't know, maybe it's the supernatural element of it. It's starting to lose a little bit of the sympathy for me, because it feels, I don't know how to word this in a way that doesn't come off like really terrible, so I think I'm just gonna keep it to myself. No, the thing is, like, it's getting a little tiresome, and not in that, like, I don't know, it felt like after her discussion with Wit, it felt like she kind of had come to a conclusion, but then she's still struggling with Veil in this way, so it's like the plot almost conveniently lets her be fine when she needs to be fine, and then when there's nothing more important going on, that's when she starts falling apart. And I know that like stuff like this is a journey and that it takes long and there's ups and downs, but it just, the way it conveniently lines up with the plot is kind of, I think, what's making it feel tedious to me, is that, and maybe it won't keep doing that, maybe she'll slip into Veil at a very crucial, important moment. I don't know, but as of yet, right now, it's just, I don't know if I'm making sense or if I'm just coming across like a jerk, but yeah, I don't know, anyway. I am glad that her and Adolin talked about it. I know Adolin didn't really understand it and kind of accidentally did the whole let's make this about me thing. But honestly, he was really trying to be sweet and understanding, and he was trying to be supportive. He's putting in effort. Give him a little bit of credit. Especially, I mean, gosh, he knows she's into Kaladin. Like I said, the love triangle thing here has really been being pushed. This book a lot more than it was in the last book. I mean, I know that didn't wait till the end, but it's really been being pushed, and I don't like it. Still hoping for a nice, satisfying, they all end up happily together situation, but like, it's gotta be hard for him to sit there and watch Kaladin, and he really handles it maturely. But I think, yeah, especially given that it's like this weird fractured thing, and I wonder, and that's the whole, like, her compartmentalizing everything, that like part of it is her attraction to Kaladin got compartmentalized to Veil, and now Veil is pushing through, and she's convincing herself that it's Veil that's attracted to him and not Shallan, and it's so complicated and messy, and I just want them to all three be happy together. But yeah, no, that moment where she like opened up to him was really sweet, and I think it's a good moment, and I think it shows something that she went to Adolin there. Also, Kaladin's been going to Adolin for support. Like I said, he's the glue. You have a non-powered person among a lot of powered people. It's the person without powers that hold them all together. Alright, let's talk Kaladin and Syl. Sanderson is not subtle. But I really do like the conflict he's showing with Kaladin, and that like when we fight and when we go to war, there's this otherization that happens. It's us versus them, and he kind of plainly paints it with Kaladin's whole like talk with the one guy where he was like, hey, just think of your buddies and keep them safe, and not like this idea of like, okay, but they're buddies. It's into the woods. No one is alone. That whole someone is on your side, someone is on theirs. That's not the right line. Also, nobody should have to listen to my sing. I don't know why I did that, but like that whole idea that like you're seeing your buddies and trying to protect your buddies, they're seeing their buddies trying to protect their buddies, and it's this us versus them attitude that you get created. And then that shatters for Kaladin when he's in that battle and there's somebody in each of those fights that he sees as, you know, his people, right? People he knows. He can't just treat them as this faceless other anymore. Like I said, it's not subtle, but it's, I think, really poignant, even if it's not subtle. And I really think like this whole thing, it just really broke him. Like he was doing pretty okay there, and I kind of feel bad now for saying it was boring in Words of Radiance, but he didn't have a lot going on, because now he's sad again, and I don't like it. Let's go back to boring Cal without any who's doing just, he's getting by fine. Can we go back to that Cal? As far as Syl, I didn't even write like parts about notes about like Cal at the end with the windspread and the sparkling, because honestly, just, I don't know. I don't know that I care. I care much more about his emotional well-being than, ooh, look, shiny Spren. Anyway, maybe there's a huge symbolic importance there I'm missing, but whatever. So still, I feel like I should be more into her backstory than I am, but I'm really kind of not. Kind of bores me a little. I mean, it's fun. It adds a little bit of flavor about her and stuff, and it's certainly very convenient for this plot, but unless like the fact that she's the last honor Spren that actually came from honor suddenly becomes a super important thing in the world, I don't know that I'm hugely invested in her story. It felt a little more like, here's something convenient for the plot to add another element of conflict that ends up being beneficial for our heroes. I don't know. And that's the thing, like, I don't care about it, but I also just kind of don't know why I don't care. Like, this feels like something that should be interesting for me, but it's just not. Anyway, those are my thoughts through chapter 110 of this. I'm going to read, and you will get an update when I finish the next, like, I think there's like 2 or 3 chapters left before the interludes, and then you'll get an interlude update. And then part 5 we're going to do as our own thing, because I liked how that worked out for Words of Radiance, and also the format of this video is going to be weird enough without incorporating part 5 into it. Alright, see you soon. Alright, hoping I don't look too much of a mess because I've had a day. Anyway, what's this? Oathbringer. I am through the chapters anyway for part 4. Haven't gotten to the interludes just yet. Who do I want to talk about first? Let's start with the group in Shadesmar, because I have less to say about them, probably, maybe. I don't understand this thing with Kaladin suddenly getting another love interest in his past. I mean, we literally spent an entire book talking about Kaladin's past, and this lady never came up, not once. It just seems like unnecessary. Like, there were all sorts of soldiers that we saw Kaladin interact with that could have had a similar discussion with him, you know? It didn't have to be a love interest. I don't understand that. Like, it could have been his mother at some point. It could have been literally anybody that we already know of from his past. It could have even been like a moment he had with Laurel at one point. I don't know. Why introduce this entire other unnecessary love interest? What was her name? Whatever, it doesn't matter. Yeah, I don't really see the point of it. Tara. Why? Other than that, not much happened. They got through, like, they're on land now. I don't quite understand the physics of Shadesmar, right? Because where there's land, there's beads, because like that's the soul of objects. And when there's water, there's land. But I don't understand the topography of it then. Like they were talking about a slope going upward. So is that like the shoreline? Like when you go in, like is it like whatever. I don't quite get it. I'm just kind of going with it. It doesn't quite make sense. There's some logistical stuff there that doesn't quite make sense, but whatever. Dalinar's stuff. So, why didn't I see it coming that humans were invaders? Why? I feel like Sanderson does this to me, where he says, he gives you this reveal, and all I can feel is like, I should have already known this. Like, I should have been able to put these pieces together. This shouldn't be surprising me. But it is? I don't know. And all the other stuff coming out, like clearly this is Taravangian's doing, right? Like his magic thing. Radiant chick knew that Dalinar had extra visions. I think this is Taravangian's doing somehow. All of this information coming out at once. But it's interesting. So is that... I'm trying to put all these factions together. So Taravangian was doing the same thing Gavilar was doing. Was Gavilar trying to bring back the god of the Parshendi because he knew humans were invaders and wanted to take them down? Or was it in an attempt to get humans to unite and take out the Parshendi permanently? Motivations are confusing to me in this. But yeah, that's interesting. And I do think it kind of, humans being the initial Voidbringers, kind of helps solve a lot of the issues I had with the end of book 1 and book 2, wherein the Parshendi aren't just like, yes, us versus them, they're who we're fighting, but they're literally evil. I think it kind of helps counteract some of that. But we're still primarily getting this from humans' point of views, and it's kind of similar to one of the issues I had with Rage of Dragons, wherein like it's really, really, really hard to pull off the colonizer's point of view if you're gonna say colonizing is bad. And that's kind of where I'm like, if you're gonna convince me that humans shouldn't have done this, you're gonna be really, really hard pressed to convince me, given we're only getting human point of views in this, you know? I mean, there's a couple Parshendis spread through, but you know what I mean? And I don't know how this is gonna go. This is when like, I feel like when fantasy gets I love fantasy that has real world themes in it, right? So talking about things like, originally this planet was owned by another people and we came and we took it, but we've been here for so long that the fact that we even took it has been forgotten. Like, and we're not talking about a couple hundred years here, we're talking about a few thousand years here. And like how the complication of trying to handle that, and I'm gonna stick to the American analogy here because I'm not getting into the other ancestral stuff, not something I want to get into, but it's just really complicated. And it's, who does it belong to? The people that were here originally or the people that have been living here for thousands of years? And like, there's definitely no question in my mind that the Alethi, the humans, are wrong for the way they have imprisoned and treated Parshendi. But how do you make peace with that? And that's kind of, I'm interested to see where it goes. I'm just not confident it's going to be handled well. But that's all I'm gonna say for that. I'll do the interludes, then we'll wrap this up. And part 5 isn't very long, but I'm gonna give it its own, I'm gonna give part 5 its own thing because why not? But yeah, that's where we're at right now. Okay then, interludes. My thoughts in order very briefly are, okay, another Venli chapter. Yay, Risen. Could use more of her. And who the frick? I don't know why I went with that to censor myself. Who on earth hurt my boy Rock? Because that's not allowed. It's just not allowed. Also, like, other people, I think Sixel got hurt too. No. We ain't here for this. I'm not playing with the hurting my boys here. I like though that they very conveniently killed off ones we hadn't heard of much before. Like, they talk about Rock being hurt, and then it's like Bisig's alive. I don't know who that is. And then Eth had been the one carrying the honor blade that day. Who's Eth? You couldn't have made it like somebody we cared about, like Sanderson, hun. You're allowed to kill people we like. You know that, right? Right? Anyway. Yeah, I don't really have a lot of thoughts after that. Venli's still kind of doing her thing. I really like Risen. I think it'll be interesting to see her journey. And I'm kind of excited for that, but I want to see her become more prominent. I'm sick of her being relegated to interludes. And then, yeah, hurting Rock's just not allowed. I don't know who it is. So, it's just somebody in a blue coat. It could literally be anyone. Yeah, I can't even guess. I don't even know. That's it for this one though. If you are interested in following along with this series, make sure you hit subscribe down below so you can keep up with when I upload. If you want to hit the bell icon to get notifications for when I upload, that's great too. Feel free to comment down below. What are you thinking of my thoughts so far? What are your opinions so far if you're where I'm at in Oathbringer? Yeah, just let me know what you're thinking. Hit the like button to let me know that you're enjoying this. And I think that's it. I do have a question for you guys, and I'm not at the end of this series yet. But when I get caught up with Stormlight, so I'm almost done with Oathbringer and then I have Rhythm of War, would you be interested in seeing me do similar kind of reading diary style thing for reading Malazan Book of the Fallen? If that's something you'd be interested in seeing, let me know below, because I think that might be what I do. Anyway, that's it for me. Bye.